So in 2002, in December of 2002, officers with Abingdon Police Department began an investigation on a suspicious death that occurred at Johnson Memorial Hospital, and at that time was located at 351 North Court Street here in the town of Abingdon. The death was due to a just make sure I get this correct. Due to blunt force trauma to the head, but the manner of death was undetermined at the time. Investigators spent a lot of time interviewing medical staff, witnesses, and Commonwealth attorneys at the time, and the Office of the Medical Examiner, but were unable to close the case, and it was just listed as suspicious and inactive. January of last year, we got a call from the Roanoke City Police Department. They had a person come in and report to a detective there that he had committed a violent crime in Abingdon, and he wished to confess to this crime. Once we were alerted, once we linked it back to the suspicious death that we had in Abingdon, investigators left. We had 2 investigators that immediately traveled to Roanoke and started a fresh investigation on this case that we've had inactive for almost 20 years. After a thorough investigation, the investigators with the Abingdon Police Department were able to obtain second-degree murder charges on Derek Wayne Jornell, who is 31 years of age. At the time of the incident is 51 years of age now. The warrant was passed along to the United States Marshal Service, who located and arrested Jornell in Roanoke City. Jornell was held without bond in that case. The investigators during the case worked very closely with the Washington County Commonwealth Attorney's Office, with Josh Cumbo. They worked with the Chief Medical Examiner's Office in Roanoke. They spent a large amount of time pulling old records, old case files, and trying to even locate medical records to be able to come to the conclusion that it was second-degree murder in this case. What questions do you have?
Now, what's the name of the victim and how old was she when she died?
Name of the victim was Deborah Page Fletcher. She was 39 years old at the time of death.
And the confession and the content of it, I mean, do you know exactly what he said? Did they communicate that to you besides I committed a crime?
I'm going to have to refer that to the Commonwealth Attorney's Office for the exact details of what was said during the confession.
In terms of the blunt force trauma, do you have any details on that?
The investigators went back to the medical examiner's office, where a new medical examiner reviewed the case, the report from the time it happened based on the new evidence, and was able to change the manner of death from undetermined to homicide.
So I understand you spoke with the family about this. Did they realize that you had reopened this case with their communication when that revelation happened in June?
Yes, the investigators did communicate with the family.
And finally having charges, did they suspect him when this had happened and this is finally justice, or what really was the reaction there?
Yes, they in the initial suspected him, and they were glad to have some finalization with this case, that there would be opportunity for justice in this case.
And as far as the man charged, let's go ahead and talk about that. Now he's facing second-degree murder charges. Where is he being held? Can he bond out? Have we gotten to that step yet?
Currently he's being held in the Roanoke City jail, and he is held without bond.
How much time could he face? I know you're probably not the right person to ask.
Correct,
I mean,
yeah.
He could be facing some serious time for this, correct?
Yeah, for that I would defer to the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, who will be prosecuting the case.
How likely is it that you guys reopen a case like this that happened over 2 decades ago and it is solved and there isn't a confession?
Sure. It doesn't happen very often. In this case, we were very fortunate that we did have this new information and we were able to go forth with the charges.
Did the fact that the hospital no longer exists in that location complicate things at all?
Absolutely. When you're going back to find records from 20 years ago, it does complicate a case.
And I understand the records of your office were probably not digitalized like they are today.
That's correct. At the time, the initial report was handwritten. Now it's all digital, but at the time we had to go pull the original report.
So in the report, it does say that your team worked tirelessly on working to close this case. I mean, how many hours would you say you put into getting to this solution today?
I don't know how many hours right off. I know that they spent a great deal of time.
Overall, as the chief, I mean, how do you and your team feel about providing closure to a family?
Our team is committed to serving the community, and this is a great example of how we are dedicated to accomplishing that.
Was this classified as a cold case, or was it technically closed and reopened?
It was technically closed and reopened. It was closed as a suspicious death, and we quickly reopened it once we found the new information.
I know the confession holds a little more weight and does make a great help in a case
Sure.
like this, but does this case make your department maybe want to look at other cases that have gone unnoticed or closed without actually resolution?
Sure. I mean, we review them when we can. Yes, you know, you always want to try to be in the know about what happened years and years ago, and we are currently actually changing how we store long-term files within the agency.
And the man involved, I mean, he had to be a resident of this region at some point. Is there any information on when he moved or where he's a current resident of?
I don't have any of that information. He was staying in Roanoke, but I don't know if he was a resident of Roanoke or just staying there. But that's.
I'm good. Anything else you'd like to add?
I don't believe so. Anything else? Think so? Jason, Chris?
I think went out, she said the incident, when we went back, happened, the interview, I think it was in January, not
It was January 31st, 2021.
Okay, so January 31st, 2021 for the interview.
Also assisting was Johnson City Police Department and Ballard Health.
So, yeah, if we would like to thank Ballard Health and Johnson City Police Department for their help in this case as well.
How did Ballard play a role? Was that because the files, you know, they had the transferred over files when they merged and took over?
Correct, yes. When the hospital was built and the old one was destroyed, then yes, those records were transferred over to them.